Before this day begins, before the world asks anything of you, pause. This is not just another morning. This is a moment of alignment, a quiet crossing between who you have been and what is now ready to unfold through you. You did not find Neville's voice by accident. There is an intelligence guiding your attention, timing, and awareness, and right now, it is guiding you inward. The greatest changes never begin on the outside. They begin when a decision is made silently within. As you listen, let go of effort. You are not here to force anything, fix anything, or chase anything. You are here to assume, to step into a state where what you desire is no longer distant, but already alive. This morning is receptive. This moment is powerful. And today, something extraordinary is already moving toward you. Every morning, before the world makes its demands and before circumstances present their stories, you quietly step into a state of being. Most people do this completely unconsciously. They wake up and immediately accept yesterday as absolute truth, carrying old emotions, unfinished thoughts, and familiar expectations into a brand new day. But the day does not begin on the outside. It begins with the assumption you accept within. The first feeling you allow yourself to dwell in becomes the blueprint for everything that follows. If you wake up assuming pressure, delay, or struggle, life faithfully reflects that mood back to you. If you wake up assuming ease, support, and favorable outcomes, the same law responds with equal precision. The morning is not just a time of day, it is a gateway, and what you step through that gateway, carrying internally, determines what you meet externally. An assumption is not a wish or a hope, it is a quiet inner agreement. It is a subtle decision that says, this is how life is for me. Once that decision is made, the mind begins selecting, interpreting, and arranging experiences to confirm it. This is why two people can walk through the exact same day and have entirely different outcomes. They are not living in the same inner state. When you consciously choose your morning assumption, you are no longer reacting to life. You are directing it. You are deciding in advance how the day will feel, how events will flow, and how situations will resolve. This does not require effort or strain. In fact, the more relaxed the assumption, the more powerful it is. Life responds best to certainty, not force. Consider how different your day feels when you wake up with the inner knowing that things will work out. There is less resistance, conversations feel smoother, and opportunities appear without being hunted. Even challenges lose their emotional charge because you are no longer meeting them from a state of fear or doubt. You are meeting them from stability. The mind may attempt to argue, and it may remind you of unfinished problems or past disappointments. But the purpose of a morning assumption is not to analyze the past. It is to choose the present state you will occupy. The past only continues if you assume it must. The moment you assume something new, the past loosens its grip. A powerful morning assumption does not focus on specific events. It focuses on identity. Instead of thinking, I hope today goes well, you quietly accept, I am someone for whom days go well. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Life always rearranges itself to reflect who you believe yourself to be. As you move through the day, this assumption becomes self-confirming. You notice small confirmations, a moment of ease, an unexpected solution, a sense of calm where there was once tension. These are not random. They are echoes of the state you selected at the beginning of the day. Even if the outer world seems unchanged at first, remain loyal to your assumption. The unseen always moves before the seen. What you establish inwardly in the morning sets processes in motion that unfold throughout the day, often in ways you could not predict or plan. When you understand this, mornings become sacred. They are no longer rushed or automatic. They are intentional. You realize that you are not waking up into a day, the day is waking up into you. Choose wisely, choose gently, and choose confidently, because the assumption you accept in the morning does not just influence the day, it becomes the day. Most people move through life believing they are trying to attract better circumstances, better relationships, or better opportunities. They wait, they visualize, they hope, and they wonder why things seem so slow to change. But life does not respond to wanting, it responds to being. What you experience on the outside is not something you pull toward yourself. It is something you are constantly expressing. The outer world functions as a mirror, reflecting back the state you consistently occupy within. This is why effort alone cannot produce lasting change. You can work hard, think positively for a moment, or repeat words without feeling, and still see little movement. The mirror does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you assume yourself to be. When you understand that you reflect rather than attract, responsibility returns to its rightful place, not as blame, but as power. You no longer need to chase outcomes or convince the world to cooperate. You simply adjust the inner position you are standing in, and the reflection changes naturally. If you consistently experience resistance, delays, or disappointment, it is not because life is against you. It is because the inner state being reflected is one of struggle or uncertainty. The world is not judging that state. It is faithfully reproducing it. The moment you see this, frustration dissolves because you realize nothing is broken. Everything is working precisely as it should. Reflection is automatic, and you do not have to monitor it. Just as a physical mirror cannot choose what it shows, life cannot choose what it reflects. When you internally accept yourself as supported, valued, and favored, experiences will begin to echo that acceptance back to you. People respond differently, situations soften, and timing improves, not because the world has changed its mind, but because you have changed your state. This also explains why trying to fix the outside often feels so exhausting. You are working on the reflection instead of the source. You try to control conversations, outcomes, or reactions, but the inner assumption remains unchanged. The mirror adjusts only when the one standing before it adjusts to reflect something new. You do not need to imagine every single detail. You simply need to feel into a new identity. Ask yourself quietly, who would I be if this were already resolved? That feeling of calm, relief, and confidence is the state you begin reflecting, and the world then rearranges itself to match it. The mind may resist this simplicity and say, but what about action? Action still happens, but it flows from the state you occupy. When you reflect confidence, your actions are confident. When you reflect certainty, your decisions are clear. Action becomes an extension of being, not a substitute for it. There is great freedom in this understanding. You stop blaming circumstances, you stop waiting for permission, and you stop measuring progress by appearances alone. Instead, you focus inward, knowing that every sustained inner shift must produce an outer echo. As this awareness deepens, you become more selective about the states you entertain. You notice how quickly moods, assumptions, and inner conversations shape your experiences, and rather than fighting them, you gently guide them. You choose again. You are not here to attract a better life someday. You are here to reflect the state of fulfillment now, and the mirror of life will do the rest. One of the most subtle traps of the mind is the belief that you must see evidence before you can feel certain. You are taught, often unconsciously, to wait for signs, results, or confirmation before relaxing into confidence. But life does not operate this way. The order is always the same: decision first, proof later. When this order is reversed, movement slows, and fulfillment feels distant. A decision is not a loud declaration. It is a quiet inner conclusion. It is the moment you stop asking if something will happen and internally accept that it is already settled. From that moment, your inner conversations change, your reactions soften, and your expectations shift. Without even realizing it, you begin to move through life as someone who already knows the outcome. Waiting for proof keeps you anchored in uncertainty. It signals to life that the state is not yet accepted, and life responds faithfully by keeping it at a distance. This is not punishment or delay, it is precision. Life can only confirm what you have already agreed to internally. When you decide first, something powerful occurs. The nervous urgency to check, worry, or control begins to dissolve. You stop scanning your environment for reassurance. Instead, you carry an inner knowing that does not need reinforcement. This state is calm, grounded, and deeply magnetic. The mind may resist making a decision without evidence, telling you to be realistic or to wait until you are sure. But true certainty does not come from facts. It comes from assumption. Facts are merely the reflections of yesterday's states, while your assumptions are the architects of tomorrow. What you see right now in your physical world is just an echo of how you used to think and believe. If you want to experience something entirely new, you have to look past the current reality. That is precisely why making a firm, unshakable inner decision can feel so uncomfortable at first. You are deliberately pulling yourself out of alignment with what your eyes see, and instead anchoring yourself into pure intention. But this uneasy feeling passes quickly. The moment you truly commit to that inner choice, your body relaxes, the mental friction melts away, and life begins shifting behind the scenes to match your new reality. You don't need immediate physical proof, and you shouldn't expect it to rush in. The unseen realm always takes the first step. Suddenly, conversations start aligning, fresh opportunities begin to take shape, and timing perfectly adjusts. The pieces of the puzzle start falling into place in ways that your logical mind could never have engineered. Then, when the time is right, the evidence shows up naturally. It won't feel like some monumental miracle you had to strain and sweat for. It will just feel like the next logical step. If you find yourself constantly scanning your environment for signs, gently bring your focus back to your decision. Signs are just reactions. They are the echoes, not the source. The true source is the quiet agreement you made within yourself. Reaffirm that agreement without force or desperation, but with absolute certainty. A genuine decision leaves no room for debate. It doesn't argue with doubt. It simply outgrows it. Sure, skeptical thoughts might still drift through your mind, but they no longer have the power to define who you are. You aren't forcing down your fears or pretending they don't exist. You are just standing on a foundation that is much deeper. Living from this perspective completely alters your relationship with time. Delays stop feeling like a heavy burden. You can easily trust the way things unfold because, in your mind, you have already accepted the final outcome. This trust isn't a form of passive waiting. It is an active state of alignment. Once you realize that physical proof is a consequence of your inner choice, you stop putting your peace of mind on hold. You stop living in exhausting suspense and trying to strike bargains with the universe. Instead, you settle into a deep inner stillness, and your outer life has no choice but to reflect that harmony. Decide first, and let the physical world catch up. Once you truly close the case in your mind, the final result is inevitable. It is just a matter of time before it shows up in your physical experience. Most people treat gratitude as a reaction, a simple thank you after something good happens. But true gratitude is infinitely more powerful than a basic knee-jerk response. It isn't a reaction to external events. It is a profound state of being. Authentic gratitude is the deep internal feeling that absolutely nothing is missing from your life. It is the knowing that your desires are already fulfilled and the matter is completely settled. Because life always acts as a mirror to our deepest inner states. This feeling of wholeness becomes the exact catalyst for real-world results. When you embody gratitude before the physical evidence arrives, you aren't playing make-believe. You are actively stepping into the emotional reality of fulfillment. You are living from the end of the story, instead of trapped in the waiting room. This is exactly why gratitude operates with such incredible efficiency. It completely eliminates doubt, struggle, and forced effort. You cannot genuinely feel thankful while simultaneously searching for what you lack. The moment thankfulness becomes your natural state, the frantic tension of wanting completely evaporates. The urgency and pressure vanish, and you stop constantly checking your watch. You no longer ask when your desire will arrive, because your gratitude already implies that it is here. This silent, deep implication speaks far louder to the universe than any forced affirmation ever could. Gratitude naturally shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, not through willpower, but through pure recognition. You begin to notice harmony where there used to be friction, and flow where there used to be stagnation. As your attention transforms, your daily life shifts right along with it. What you recognize and appreciate within yourself begins to multiply all around you. This doesn't mean you need to force yourself into a state of hyper-excitement or toxic positivity. True gratitude is quiet, steady, and grounded. It feels like an immense wave of relief. It feels like finally finding solid ground, like taking a deep, long-awaited exhale after holding your breath for miles. This is the exact frequency that life responds to most faithfully. When you live in this state, you stop trying to micromanage how things will manifest. You trust the process and allow timing to work in your favor. This kind of surrender isn't a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate alignment. It signals that you are no longer fighting against the very thing you want. If your mind tries to pull you back into doubt or point out what is missing, let gratitude gently guide you back home. Don't fight the negative thought. Simply return to the solid feeling that it is already done. Over time, this sensation becomes your anchor, and the outer world will begin to echo it back to you, first in quiet hints, and then in undeniable ways. Gratitude completely rewrites your identity. You stop viewing yourself as a person desperately hoping for change, and you start living as someone who is already complete. This internal shift rewires how you speak, how you move, and how you respond to the world. People will feel it, situations will adapt to it, and new paths will open up for you. Remember, gratitude isn't about wearing blinders to life's challenges. It is about choosing to prioritize your final state over temporary, passing circumstances. You acknowledge what is currently happening without giving it the power to dictate your mood. Your inner world remains anchored in fulfillment. As this gratitude deepens, the process of manifestation becomes entirely effortless. You are no longer trying to force something into existence. You are simply allowing what you have already accepted internally to show up externally. This is why a thankful heart often brings results much faster than hard labor. It completely removes the resistance. When you live this way, you stop chasing outcomes and start receiving confirmations. Life meets you exactly where you are, and where you are is already whole. Gratitude isn't the trophy at the finish line. It is the doorway. Step through it, and your world will transform around you. Every single shift in your reality starts with a clear decision, but it is your persistence that allows that choice to take root and blossom into view. A lot of people make an assumption once, ride a brief wave of hope, and then throw in the towel the second their outer world doesn't instantly transform. But life doesn't respond to fleeting emotions or temporary bursts of enthusiasm. It responds to the state of mind you consistently return to when no one is watching. Persistence isn't about bullying yourself into believing or pretending doubt doesn't exist. It is a quiet, gentle loyalty to the reality you have chosen, even when your current senses tell you otherwise. You aren't at war with the world. You are simply refusing to let temporary circumstances dictate your internal truth. This quiet, steady focus is what actually yields results. The physical world always operates on a slight delay. It is a broadcast of your past assumptions, not your current ones. This built-in delay isn't a mistake or a flaw in the system. It is the natural bridge between an internal shift and its physical confirmation. Once you understand this law, you stop misinterpreting a delay as a failure. You start recognizing it as absolute proof that a deeper shift has already occurred and is currently making its way to the surface. When you remain persistent in your assumption, your internal dialogue changes completely. You stop reacting emotionally to every little sign or lack of progress. You remain deeply anchored. This anchoring builds a powerful sense of coherence between your thoughts, feelings, and expectations. And that kind of inner harmony holds immense power. Sure, doubts might still knock on the door, but persistence means you don't invite them in for tea. You acknowledge them, and then you softly guide your awareness back to the reality you chose. With time, this assumption becomes second nature. It stops feeling like a technique you are practicing, and starts feeling like exactly who you rent. That is the precise moment when manifestation becomes inevitable. The outer mirror cannot indefinitely contradict a stable inner state. The reflection has to adjust. People will start treating you differently. Circumstances will pivot, and new avenues will present themselves. Most of the time, these shifts will feel incredibly natural when they arrive. Not like an explosive drama, but just beautifully aligned. Persistence also shields you from emotional burnout. Instead of riding a roller coaster of highs and lows based on daily events, you stay centered. You stop measuring your growth by the hour. You trust the underlying law of expression. So many people abandon their vision right at the finish line, just as it is about to harden into physical fact. They look for results too early. They check too often, and by constantly checking, they slip right back into the energy of lack and uncertainty. Persistence means you stop looking for reassurance and start operating from a place of knowing. This knowing doesn't need to be loud or showy. It doesn't need external validation. It is calm, settled, and deeply patient. And this type of patience isn't a painful wait. It is just a quiet confidence in an inevitable conclusion. As you grow deeper in this persistence, all struggle fades away. You don't need to endlessly repeat affirmations to convince yourself of anything. You simply return to the feeling of completion whenever your mind begins to wander. That simple return is more than enough. Eventually, this assumption becomes your default setting, and when that happens, the physical world has absolutely no choice but to conform. What you once only imagined becomes your actual experience. What you once assumed becomes what you see. Persistence is the quiet, invisible force behind every true transformation. It isn't about intensity or struggle. It is about staying loyal to your inner truth. Stay faithful, stay grounded, and let life reveal what you have already finalized within. Right now, just allow yourself to be completely still for a moment. Notice how nothing needs to be added to this moment. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You have already stepped into a brand new internal position, and that single choice has already set unseen currents into motion. From this deep state of being, life will respond to you naturally. Doors will open without you having to force them. Answers will find you without you having to hunt them down. What used to feel stuck or delayed will now begin to move with absolute ease. Carry this exact feeling of relief with you as you step into the rest of your day. Let it quietly shape your thoughts, your voice, and your expectations, not with an attitude of strain, but with a peaceful, calm certainty. You don't need to watch the clock, and you don't need to go hunting for signs. The decision has been finalized, and life has already taken note. Today is beautifully aligned. Today is completely supported. And whatever you have quietly accepted as truth on the inside is now taking shape on the outside. It is done. Thank you for pausing and giving yourself these valuable moments of stillness. Thank you for choosing conscious awareness over pointless